We're joined by retired Lieutenant Colonel Daniel L. Davis. He's a senior fellow at the Military Expert for Defense Priorities. He's also a retired Army Lieutenant Colonel with 21 years of service, including 4 combat deployments. So we take his analysis very seriously. Thank you for your service and for joining us live from Virginia. Colonel, what do you make of all of this and this latest news? It seems that the United States is working around the clock to outcompete China for the most part.
Yeah, well, I got to tell you, I'm a little concerned with how we're going about some of this, because the whole idea is supposed to be the defense of the United States national security interests worldwide. But it seems that we spend way more focus on projecting power, especially into the areas around China, than we do with diplomacy. And it doesn't take much comparison to look at our diplomatic budget and the military budget, and they're vastly out of proportion. And I think we should be putting a lot more emphasis on the diplomatic arena, because that's the best place where you can get the most bang for your buck, so to speak, and the most security. And, and things like what happened with China here just in the last 2 days, yesterday and today, with this freedom of navigation operations in the U.S. guided missile destroyer into the area around where China claims its sovereignty over some islands. Now, there's plenty of dispute over that, and that's something many other countries actually also dispute. But you have to ask the question, how does this advance American national security or those of our allies when we constantly send these ships into close proximity with the PLA warships and airplanes? And I argue that that's not necessarily a good thing for us to do on a routine basis.
And Colonel, what steps should the United States be taking right now? It seems that there is no appetite for de-escalation. We're talking about China right now, but then you look at the war in Ukraine and relations with Russia as well. It just doesn't seem like there's an appetite for de-escalation in any of these regions right now when it comes to the foreign policy agenda of the Biden administration, at least, and many on Capitol Hill, even some Republicans.
Yeah, you're 100% right. There's no question about that. And in both of those two theaters you just mentioned there, both the Indo-Pacific and in the European theater around the Russia-Ukraine war, really the only thing we've been doing is to, quote, show strength. And look, there's a time for strength. I mean, I as you pointed out, I served 21 years in the service. I've fought in 4 separate combat environments, and I'm the first one that'll tell you that we need to have a strong military, and we need to be ready to use it to decisive effect. However, there is a time and a place for it, and the priority should be using diplomacy and seeking to de-escalate. We should not be just blanket sending weapons and ammunition and money to Ukraine to keep that war going. We should be looking for ways to end the war, end the suffering. Similarly, in the Pacific area, we should be doing far more to try to engage China on a diplomatic front to try to resolve some of these difficulties and some of these challenges that we have, as opposed to expressly, for example, in the Philippines, accounting for 4 additional bases, military bases we can use, expanding military operations on Guam, expanding military cooperation with Japan in some of those areas here. Of course, China regards all that as a threat, and then they also ratchet up their military activities, and then they expand their military capacity. So you have both sides trying to one up the other, and that doesn't lead anywhere good, and it certainly doesn't provide security for anyone.
Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis, thank you so much for joining us on WION, and we look forward to speaking to you again very soon. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much.